to Cooper Talk.
Welcome to Cooper Talk. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, and remember, I'm only as hip as my guest. Now, I got to tell you, people, I'm really excited to have my guest on today. I reached out to him on Instagram, and my friend Jimmy Corhan's producing the show because the Boondock Saints is his favorite movie. I was talking to Jimmy, and I said, well, then come on and produce it. And my guest has a lot going on. He's got the new the book. Well, it's been out for a little bit. The Boondock Saints, Blood Origins, which he does the voices, which is very cool. I was like, sinner. So it's my guest is Troy Duffy. How you doing, Troy?
Hey, Coop, how are you?
Good. So, when did you decide to come out with a book? Tell me the whole process, because the book, it's great because you're doing the voices in the first chapter. You're doing the different voices and the inflections. And so where did it all come from?
Well, it came from years and years of fan questions. I sort of had the story all built up in my head over the last, well, I guess it's been 25 years now. So I always wanted to do it. I was a little intimidated by the whole thing because I kind of look at screenplays, you know, and movies still. Like regular guys don't read scripts, you know. They read books. I was brought up reading books, and I thought to myself, oh, yeah, like you're going to be an author now. But then an opportunity came up, and I decided to go for it, and it was basically kind of semi-retiring. About 2-3 years ago, I was approached to do like a single license for 3 in this company called Thunder Road, which is they did John Wick and Sicario, some of my favorite action franchises. They're big Boondock fans. They wanted to take it and do a 3, with their kind of expertise. So I made that deal, and I was like, all right, well, I really don't have much to do. You know, they're going to be off with the brothers. I gave them my script. They're going to rework that and kind of build on the skeleton that I gave them to kind of they want to be able to do like 3, 4, and 5 and not have these massive periods of waiting in between movies that we've become infamous for with Boondock. So I made that deal, and I just figured, all right, now I'll write the book. You know, now that I'm kind of retired, thinking about things like fishing and golfing. I felt like a total idiot, man.
No, it's good. It's good, man.
It just sort of didn't work. Retirement. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's good that you're doing that, though, because the bottom line is, once you're creative, you don't get out of it. I mean, you know, I see the guitars behind you, and you know the band and everything. You're never going to stop. You can say you're going to retire, but then you sit there and you go, "Holy shit, what am I doing? I'm bored out of my mind."
Yeah, that's exactly. I found that out the hard way, brother. The hard way. I actually made attempts. You know, you go out and you buy all the fishing stuff and think you're going to fish. That was lame. But as I started writing the book and, you know, getting those creative juices flowing again, I realized, all right, I'm not retiring. So it was such a great, fun process when I finally, you know, started really rolling on it. It was 6 months of just becoming obsessed with the story, you know, wondering what fans were going to think at the end of the day. And so I wrote the book. It's out. The fans are not really aware of it yet. We've done okay. You know, so there's an ebook that you can buy for your devices, and then there's the audio book, which we're getting particular praise for on that one. And that's kind of what I wanted to find out. I found out my number one thing. Will fans kind of love this like they loved the films? And the few that have it, you know, we're at like 89%, 5 out of 5 said they just love it. So I'm so happy. I'm just going to be writing Boondock Saints Volume 1, 2, 3, 4 forever, I think, because can't fish.
Well, how are you going to do that? Okay, so you have like this first one, you have the backstory. You write that. Now, are you going to create new adventures? And if you do that, will something conflict with, as you said, if there's Boondocks 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with the movies? Do you have to sit there and correlate what's going on? I mean, what's your objective in the next book you write? What was your objective for this first book?
My objective for the first one was to just kind of tell. Nobody knows how Connor and Murray, two brothers, don't steal into the United States as illegal immigrants off the radar and just start killing bad guys. Why? What were the footsteps taken? What was the first thing they did? Who was the first person they brought to justice? Why did they argue, quarrel about it? Why did they step in? Why did they do? So the W's, the who, what, where, why, and when of how the brothers got like this. What kind of physical and emotional minefields do you have to go through, struggling with God v. man the whole way, to end up going, no, we're going to do this. We're going to start killing really bad people and letting God sort it out. You know, there's and the story that I came up with for that ended up just being, it's like one of those things. I never write something for one purpose. It's not like A plus B equals C. It always has to kind of fit more into life. So what I've done with the first book is we start Connor and Murphy in their childhoods, and you find out a lot of things about them. We roll really deep here, right? But in terms of well, let me try to walk you into how the movies will kind of fit into this a little bit, right? I'm not worried so much about 3, 4, and 5. You know, those haven't come out. I'm worried about what I've done and what I've established in 1 and 2. And what this story is, we start them out in their childhoods. They've both been arrested at 13 years old. Connor's in one interrogation room. Murphy's in another, both getting sweated by the cops. Connor's got a good cop. Murphy has a bad one. And then the bad cop hits Murphy, and Connor feels it, right? We're going with that twin telepathy that the boys have. It's been established and building on it, right? And he turns to the investigators, like, tell that cop keep his fucking hands off me, brother. And she's like, what? And so we already like, it's that cold open that reveals new things immediately. We're on a different story. So what did they do when they were 13 years old? Well, that's a pretty cool little tale, but it's almost like what two 13-year-old boys like Connor and Murphy would do with their 13-year-old brains. And it ends up being an incredibly brutal thing, right? But you can tell they're starting to develop, right? But so very quickly we kind of go through a history of the brothers, and they come of age of where they were in the first films, right? Early 20s. And we've established that they've been working hard. They become jacks of all working class trades. It's very important to Connor that they master things like plumbing, electricity, stonemasonry, working in restaurants, cooking, everything, so that when they get to the United States, they can make money all the time, send some back to mom, and they're obsessed with Boston and the United States because they want to eventually become Americans, but they're going there for their American dream, which is establishing McManus Brothers Construction Company. Right? They're trying to get their slice of the American pie. But by the time they hit, their early 20s and they're about to depart, it's present day. They're in the here and now with us. I felt that was very important. In 25 years, crime itself has changed. Criminals themselves have changed. I once polled the fan base. I was like, who do you want to see Connor and Murphy bring to justice the most? Who would you like to see them go after and kill? Number one answer, politician. Corrupt politicians. All right. I could have knocked me over with a feather, but then I was like, man, I should have had a V8. I should have seen that one coming, right? Because it's so obvious what we're all dealing with right now. So I realized, we gotta update it and bring it into today's world. Keep them poor, keep them struggling, keep them working, worrying about paying the electric bills, busting their asses out there, like all of us in the 99%. But they do this extraordinary thing, which is the one thing we all wish we could do, but that's where we draw the line, all right? So how do they get there? Well, their first thing happens. Like, they almost immediately meet Rocco, which is a laugh riot, the way they meet Rocco. The brothers are they came to Boston for two reasons. Number one, favorite city. Number two, they obsessed over it. They back in Ireland, they watched everything they could, History Channel stuff about Boston. They know every piece of ground. The other reason is to find their mysterious father, who they never knew. So they're here with purpose and intent that has nothing to do with vigilantism. By the time they meet Rock, who's in the mob, they're in a park and they've gone along this thing called the Freedom Trail, which is this slim brick pathway that winds throughout Boston to all of its iconic historic locations. And the brothers are just having a couple sub sandwiches in the park Rocco's on the other side of the park, and right in between them is some jerk off teaching his dog, and he's got a rolled up newspaper, and he keeps beating the dog. And, you know, Rocco kind of at one point is like, hey, you want to stop doing that, pal? He's like, oh, I'm training him. F off. You know? And the brothers are like, you know, boo. Beating the dog. What did Monty ever do to you? So we start with like this kind of catalyst, and it goes way off the rails. But it's really one of those things. I got that question unbelievably to me a lot. How did the brothers meet Rocco? I was always like, why would you care? Why would you wonder that? But all the questions the fans have had over the years just blown me away and put the story right in my head. It was them. They're responsible. It was you, Dad. I learned it from watching you. So when I came up with it, I realized at the end of it what I had done. I had responded to the fans with something that they don't even know they're responsible for and how cool it actually is. That little story of how they met and became sort of the three amigos so fast. Just kind of, I don't know, blends everything together, it makes everything tighter. So as soon as Rocco's got a dead-end job with the mob, we go into his world, and we see how much his boss hates him, and he hates his boss, but these other guys love him. He's cousins with one of the Brugleones, who, is the right-hand dude of his shit boss. And, you know, he meets the brothers under those conditions. He's having a bad fucking day. You know, by the way, can I swear on this show?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, good. So Rocco's having a bad day. It all ends with them having a nice, peaceful pint together, and the brothers realizing they probably just met somebody they're going to know their whole lives, and vice versa. So then what happens? I mean, we're now dealing with present-day Boston. You know, we have all kinds of stuff going on. Well, the brothers live in sort of a repurposed tenement, illegal loft in South Boston. We got Irish mob, we got Italian mob. All these guys are playing. We got new good guys, we got new bad guys. We got cops, right? What happens is, through a very secretive kind of underground wire, Rocco finds out something that starts messing with his head. Can't get it out for days and days. And it's essentially that there's a very bad dude a couple towns over in Peabody that did something very bad. And he knows about it. Killed a girl. And his 14-year-old boy, innocent, talented, little Gussie Levesque, comes home early from school one day, catches his dad rolling up a body in the tarp, and this monster doesn't even panic. He makes the kid aid in a body disposal. Go way out into the woods, digs a shallow grave, throws a tire on her, douses her with gasoline, makes the kid light her up. All right, all just a devastating thing, right? And immediately something happens that Rocco has found out about this. He can't prove it. It's all secondhand information. But he tells the brothers, you know, I can't walk this in to my guys and say, please kill this kid's father. But he knows that the kid's a loose end to his dad. And he knows that his monster of a father is going to kill him at some point. And the brothers are like, it's like your friend comes to you with something that crazy. They're just like, what, have you lost your fucking mind? You didn't come here. You don't even know if any of this is real. First off. Second off, what do we look like? You know, fucking Batman and Super. What? We're just three assholes sitting around a cable spool drinking beers. So immediately they're like anybody would be. Not with this idea. Because Rocco leads them all the way to, we should just go over and kill this guy. And we could get away with it. I know how to do it. I've done this before. Because we find out Rocco's history of being forced in to kill somebody. And the brothers basically brush it off, you're drunk. But now we have a nice, beautiful, because one of the things I love about brother relationships is that they disagree about everything. So between those two characters, I get to explore every issue. You can take, Team Connor or Murphy, depending on your beliefs. But them disagreeing on everything and seeing the world in a different way, yet similarly over here and here, is story fodder forever. It's why I know I can go volume 1 through 10 here. So immediately, Murphy thinks about it. He's like, well, maybe we should go over there and take a look. And Connor's like, what do you mean take a look? What do you think you're going to see? And Murphy's like, I don't know, we're going to see something. You're going to see a fucking guy in a house over in Peabody. That's what you're going to see. So they get into this argument, and then Murphy and Rocco, the new little dynamic duo, partners in crime, sneak over, and they actually do see something at this guy's house. The kid runs out of the house, goes somewhere where he has a loaded gun stashed, and he just touches it, puts it back. Murphy grabs the weapon once the kid leaves, goes back to their loft with Rocco, intent on giving Connor the down, and they walk in, and Connor knows exactly what they've been doing. He's like, oh, here we go. Batman and Rocco return from reconnoiter in the dark streets at night, yeah? And Murphy just puts the gun on the table. And boom, everything fucking changes, right? Like, where the fuck did you get that? They get into a huge argument because Murphy's point is, this kid's going to get killed. We know it, you pussy. And we have to stop. We're the only ones that can. We can't go to the cops. The mob can't help out. This isn't a social services situation. It's on us. And Connor's main point is, we still don't know if he did it, all right? This is complete bullshit. You've gone off the rail. And the brothers get into a physical altercation. And one of the new things we're doing with the characters is the brothers are both basically insane mixed martial artists, very good fighters. So right when they start going at each other, Rocco's standing there like, you guys can't be fighting. You in particular cannot do this. And he tries to stop it, but he gets side slapped. And it ends with, like, Connor going, I've been protecting you your whole life with all your fucking shenanigans. You do this, you're on your own. Fuck off. And then it escalates. They do find out. They are standing over her grave in the woods at some point. And now everything just got real, right? Now Connor's got a decision to make, and his brother's going, we can't just sit here.
You know what's fascinating to me is that you've come up with a story. You're working on this 25 years later. How did you come up with the original screenplay? Where did that come from? I mean, you sat there. I know you were living in Hollywood, and I've been to Jay Sloan's when it was open, and I lived in a little shitty place on Leland Avenue. And but when you moved to L.A., were you there for music or for screenwriting? I mean, how did you come up with the screenwriting for that first Boondock Saints?
Yeah, I went there for music, but then I guess I always had my head in a book from the time I was really young. So I guess I just started writing it one day, and it was based on, me and my brother were living together in a shitty, studio apartment together. We're both working at the bar. And, we were like the victims of crime. I came back one day and walked in on a guy robbing our place, and we didn't have shit. My brother's truck got vandalized. Nothing happened. And all these stories started hitting me like, this really kind of sucks, because at Hollywood, the kind of Hollywood I was in was not the glamorous kind that you see on TV. We were in basically the very bad, drug infested, homeless parts of Hollywood. And I started writing it, and I just based the characters on me and my brother and our relationships. We're only a year apart. I decided to make them twins. I decided to make them Irish. Don't even know why. And then gay characters pops out of the blue. I didn't really know why. God was helping me. It was throwing all this stuff in there. And the second reason was I was so disenfranchised with the movies I was seeing. I was like, I want to pay $10 and not feel like I got ripped off just once. So I'm going to write one that I would pay $10 to go see and feel like, money well spent. So those were the reasons.
So when you start writing it, now do you read Sid's Sid Field's screenplay? Do you get the script where? Because it's so funny because I optioned a screenplay called. It was about a mascot, the Philadelphia mascot. It was originally based on the Cleveland mascot. And what's funny is about you got a good deal. I got 1,500 against 150,000, which I saw 1,500. I didn't see anything else. But when you started writing it, how did you know the format? What were you writing it on? Because a lot of people back then, it wasn't like you had laptops. It wasn't like it's like you had that brother, shitty brother with a little disc.
Remember those? Yeah, remember those 3-inch discs and the big fat computers?
Yeah, so
3-inch hard discs.
How did you learn?
Here's how. There's a fun story there. Okay, here's the fun story. Working at the bar, I knew everybody. Me and my brother were pretty friendly guys and made lots of friends. But all the friends you make in Hollywood have something to do with the movie business or the music business. So I asked this one gal who I knew, Sarah, still one of my oldest friends. She was like an assistant, I think, or something in the movie business. I was like, "Can you get me a script that's been made into a movie?" And she got me the script Jack that Robin Williams did. Right? And I had seen the movie. I read the script, and you start figuring it out. I was like, "Int? What's int?" She's like, "Interior." I go, "Oh, int, exterior. All right." So. And I started getting, the description down, the dialogue down, realizing so what I would do, because I didn't have enough money for a computer, I rented this computer every weekend. I'd write on the door in notebooks while I was bouncing at Sloan's. And then I'd just transfer all my writing on a little, 3-inch disc on a computer that I rented every other weekend. And pretty soon I had a script, It's like my boy... Paulie, who's watching backstage, who's my brand manager now, he was right there beside me while I was writing it. He was reading scenes. Haha, that's good. So that's how that all happened.
Now, how many drafts? Because, it's like anything. I always think when people write, at least when you're newer writers, they will sit there and they'll get 20 pages in, and instead of keeping going, they'll go, "Oh, this sucks," and they'll go back, which never works. You just got to plow through it. How many drafts did you do?
Yeah. One.
The
only adjustments that had to be made was I had to. My first draft was 127 pages. They like them down around 105, 110. That kind of ensures a 2-hour movie. And I just had to pull out some stuff, which I was pissed about, but it had to be done. There was like 2 dream sequences in there. The brothers had the same dreams, which I've been able to kind of reacquire in the book, in the Boondock Saints books. But yeah, it was one draft, basically.
Now, how did you get it into people's right hands? I remember I was waiting tables at Planet Hollywood in Beverly Hills, and Bill Block from Artiston came in, and Planet Hollywood was about to close. So we didn't care, and I said, I have a script and I wrote a fake documentary about the Amish Mafia. It was called Goodfellas. And I gave it to Bill, and it got read.
Wait, what?
It was called what? Goodfellows. Instead of Goodfellas, it was Goodfellas about the Amish Mafia. And,
playing on the German. All right.
And I gave it to I pitched Bill Block, and actually it got into him. It got passed on, but I just asked, because we knew Planet Hollywood was closing. We weren't going to get fired, So how did you start the process? Because it's so hard, and your story is very fascinating. What happened? How did the whole process start, and where you ended up being the toast of the town?
Well, you have given that. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk about one of the dearest friends I've ever had, CB. Chris Brinker was his name. Now, when I first got out to Hollywood, I worked in a strip club. I was a chef at this high-end strip club, and CB was one of the runners. So he was like serving my food. We became tight, and the place closed down. And then I started working at Sloan's, and I wrote the script, and like God planned it. Almost the day I was done, he shows up at the bar, and I happen to be bartending that night. And I'm serving him 4 deep, and I hear this, "Hey, asshole!" And there he is. I hadn't seen him in months, right? So I'm sliding him free drinks. What are you doing now? It turns out he was an assistant over at New Line Cinema for this producer named Lloyd Sagan. And I was like, "Wow, that's weird. I just finished my script." Right? And he's like, can I read it? I pitched him the story real quick. He's like, "That's the best pitch I've ever heard." And I'm just thinking, this guy's my buddy, whatever. So we're having a reading. Like I got my friends and the guys in the band. You know, we were all living in the same house, and we had this reading. And knock, knock, knock at the door. CB had sent over a messenger from New Line to get the script. So I gave him his copy. You know, and all my boys were like, "Whoa, what's going on? We doing a movie? What's up?" So CB basically started that ball rolling, got it on the right desk, talked to agents that he had come to know through his assistant work at New Line, and an agent named Ramses Itzhak and Jim Crabb, who was the head of Lit over at William Morris. They both flipped. But now UTA, CAA, everybody else, everybody's flipping, right? Which was pretty much the exact opposite. It's like when CB read the script, he was like, I don't think you understand what this is. And because my opinion was like, everybody writes scripts. The two dudes that I just threw out of here on their asses both have scripts. You know, so I expected it to just kind of, you know, blend right in with the gray sludge of Hollywood, but it did exactly the opposite. Suddenly I'm getting courted by all the agencies on my very first script, one draft. It was like, you know, you're kind of walking on air. I'm meeting producers that have done $100 million franchises, and I'm serving them beer, and I'm like having them to charge them $2.50 for a Bud Light. You know, they're like, all right, what we're going to do, we're going to do this for 15, 20 million. It's your first movie. And they're talking to me like, you want to direct it? Yeah. Oh, you're directing. And I'm like, I'm going to need you to pay your tab. So it led to some pretty wild situations. And the actors and hot chicks, and everybody started porn star. They started showing up at the bar. And we started making, you know, the friend network started going out and out and out. And then, you know, Harvey Weinstein reads it on his way to the Oscars. This was the year, I think, that Miramax got 12 Oscars, Chocolat and all the. He reads it on the plane. As soon as he touches down, he's like, I want to talk to this kid right now. So I get summoned, you know, and I had been drinking the night before, right? And me and my producers go up there. I'm like, what am I supposed to be doing? They're like, just go listen to what he has to say. Be yourself. So I meet Harvey, and yeah, it was just like huge table of food he had in there. He's getting fitted for his tux, and that kind of went into the Hollywood lore, that little meeting. But at the end of it, he's like, I'm doing this movie. You're already signed off on me directing, even though I hadn't directed anything ever. Had never even been on a set. I was on a set once. Same gal that gave me the script got me a job as a lumper on some movie shoot in Venice, and I was carrying fake brick walls
what
up
the hell's a lumper?
flights of stairs for the day.
What's a lumper?
Like 50.
I've never heard the term lumper.
Carrying shit from the grip truck to the roof and carrying it back down. I got paid $50. That was the only film set I'd ever been on. It was like a Janine Garofalo movie. So, you know, now all of a sudden things are going crazy. Harvey invites me to the after party at the Oscars because it was the day I met him. The Oscars were that night. So Mondrian Hotel, I get swooped in there. And, you know, I'm with Harvey and all the big guys that just swept the Oscars, and all they're talking about is Boondock Saints and me. It was the craziest, most surreal shit ever, you know? And then this gal that I dated at the time brought a friend, and she got super drunk and poured. You remember Celine Dion's Canary Yellow Dress where she sung the Titanic thing? Yeah, this boneheaded drunk stripper I brought spilled red wine on her canary yellow dress. And they're all in the bathroom, like, wiping her down. I'm like, time for me to go, Harv. So, yeah, like, I got so many stories about all that whole time period. But then, you know, me and Harvey came to blows pretty quickly. And he put me in turnaround. I got to go find somebody else to do it. I did over like a year and a half. We reset it all up. We lost our record deal because the band got signed with Maverick Records, Madonna's label. And then I got signed to do the movie with Miramax, who's, you know, the biggest indie house out there. We were like on top of the world, and it all came tumbling down.
Now,
and it was basically
what happened with you and Harvey? What was the falling out? Because you were, I mean, he was going to buy half of Jay Sloan. Was he just a prick? I mean, we found out later he was a complete prick. He's in jail. That's what a prick he is. But what happened with you two?
I think God was probably looking out for me at the end of the day, but it was all about all your prayers not being answered at the time so that you could do something better. It really, what happened was we disagreed on casting. He wanted to, like, the script was attracting like like movie star level guys. And I was saying, no, this has to be kind of two no names. We had a deal where at $15 million, he got to have casting choices. But if I wanted to opt for the $10 million to do the movie for 10, I could have cast, me and my brother as the brothers. So I opted for the 10, and we just it came to blows. He also has a bunch of people around him I didn't trust, and a couple of them in particular didn't like me. I didn't like them. It put me in turnaround. Didn't even call or anything. I just got a call from my agent. You're done over there at Miramax. And President William Morris at the time ended up being a great friend, and his VP, Mike Simpson, are responsible for resetting the whole thing up. And so we did. It was for $6 million this time, but I didn't give a shit. Also, the Canadian exchange rate I had more like 9 really to make it, because we shot the thing in Toronto for most of the time, 1 week in Boston to get a lot of our exteriors and the stuff in Prison with Il Duce. Basically casting differences. There was some people that he was feeling that I wasn't. He also did this really brilliant thing. Like, he'd find new young talent, the Gwyneth Paltrows of the world, who's the, why do I blank on his name? Who's the guy that played, Obi-Wan Kenobi? Irish kid.
Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor. And like people like that, he would get them when they were kind of fresh and young, and then he'd make them agree to 3 pictures. So that he would make them a star in the first one. Now their salary is commanding $5-10 million, but Harvey's still paying them $350K. That's how he did it. So he had this stable of actors like that were famous people, but none of them just seemed to be right, And I was kind of sticking to my guns on that. I kind of told myself, look, you make compromises where you can. Show that you're good to work with. But I knew that casting, I had to find two magic men, 2 young, good-looking guys that could really pull this off. And now I don't know that there's many fans out there that could imagine Boondock Saints with any other 2 actors than Sean and Norm. Well, so I was right, man. I was right at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, it shows.
But as you know, Hollywood, you don't take credit for that.
Oh, yeah, but you were right about it. Now I got to ask you though. We talk about anyone who's creative. I always say, any creative type, and most of the time creative people agree even though they don't want to. We're 50% narcissistic and we're 50% insecure. I always feel that way. We want to be seen, but when we've seen it, we don't think we deserve it. So when you were going through this, you shoot up like a meteor, and then everything falls. How do you mentally keep it together? Because you're young. You're an overnight success. As you said, you're the toast of the town. Your strippers spilling wine on the Celine Dion's dress, and you're still have the deal. So how do you mentally keep your shit together? Because for you, it was 2 things. It wasn't only the movie, then also with your band, The Brood. It was that too. So how did you keep your shit together? Because you had to be just. That second guessing, what was going through your mind when all this shit hit the fan? Because no one experiences that.
I think that I had people around me that believed in me. Arnold Rifkin, President William Morris, when he turned around and said this movie gets made. That these types of things, there's moments that fill you with a drive and pride. And yes, there's weaker moments where you're like, can I really pull this off? Can I do this? We had it all and we lost it all. Now, even the guys in the band, they're all looking at me now. You screwed it up. So there's all those times. And, fortunately, there's a documentary on it you can go see, because my 2 buddies convinced me to let them follow us all around with cameras during this whole time period. Now, ultimately, what they edited together was a sensationalistic, backstabbing con job, in my opinion, because there was reasons for everything I did. And the documentary overnight just seems to suggest, bad behavior, bad things happen. Troy's an asshole, that's why. Not getting into any of the nuance and what was actually happening back then. And ultimately made it look like Boondock Saints was some kind of failure when it came out. The real story of all that question you just asked is deep. I mean, we could go for hours and hours about every little bit of that, But I looked at essentially the answer is I looked at myself like, a captain of a ship and this crew. I had ultimate faith in this crew, all of its talent, faith in the guys in the band, faith in myself as a writer and a director. And I was like, we're getting these things across the finish line. Now, ultimately, we ended up getting a much smaller deal with a much smaller company called Franchise Films for only $6 million. But we were over the moon. We were going to go make our movie our way with our cast, with our boys, with Sean and Norm. And we ended up getting a record deal with a 5-album deal with Atlantic Records. This is around the time that Kid Rock was breaking, a couple other acts that they had. We ended up putting some of our music in the film. Some of it's become really kind of iconically associated with Boondock Saints. So as far as I'm concerned, we accomplished our goals. But yeah, going through all that, keeping everybody, because sometimes when you get, tell me if you recognize this, when you get in the business, like you say, everybody's like, they want an agent. Like you get an agent, you think, well, they're going to handle things. All this stuff everybody's taught, they're going to just make the calls and make that happen. Or you get a producer, they're going to make sure the movie gets. It doesn't really work that way. The thing I found out is they need, almost like children, they need constant attention. They need to constantly be explained to and brought back harder and filled with vigor, filled with loyalty. You need to give them reason for sticking their necks out and make them feel comfortable with it. Yet, sometimes these are the people that advise you. I've had producers who, friends of mine to this day, guys I've known 30 years, just talked to one the other day. It was great catching up. But he was like, all right, here's what you want to do, and I get it. Here's why you're not going to do that. And then he would explain to me. So it was a big kind of learning as you go, keeping the crew together, taking the people that believed in me, pushing them forward, until we finally got those dotted lines signed and started actually doing the stuff, making a movie and recording an album, which were the two greatest things of my life up to then. But all that time before was just working so hard every day to get to work, to get to actually do. So when the first day of doing that movie, they had a guy on set. You don't make your days, you don't make your pages. The company's going to replace you with this seasoned director. He left pretty damn quick because I just had a way, right? All these people, I got some of the best technicians. I got I got the best stuntman. I got the best gun guy. I got my hairdresser was an Academy Award. This little $6 million movie. There were 27 movies shooting in Toronto at the same time. My own line producer in Toronto, Don Carmody, was like, you're never going to get any of these people, but they all want to meet you because of this Harvey Weinstein, all this stuff in all the ink on you. So they would come in and meet me, and I got every fucking one of them. And finally, my line producer was like, what are you saying to these fucking people? Are you promising them shit? I'm like, no, they want to work on something good. They read the script, they like it, and then they like me. And that's the way you kind of keep building crews. You keep pushing forward. You don't let people tell you can't do something because this or that has never been done. And it doesn't go that way. No. Once you sit down and have heart to heart with real human beings that, are sick and tired of working on $50 million flops, they want to do something they can take pride in. And about every one of those people from that crew that sacred crew that had my back the whole time when we did Boondock 1, there's not a one of them doesn't have that story. When I give my resume to somebody to try to get a job, they're like, oh, yeah, these great, huge movies. You did Boondock Saints. And then suddenly the air in the room changes, and they're answering all these questions. Like it became the stuff of legend. Not just the movie itself, a cult classic like that, but in the people that made it take a great deal of pride in it, and they are always sort of confronted with questions, and they want the stories from that set, man.
Now, tell me about your first day on the set, because you're directing. And now, you look at the cast, and, Willem Dafoe is amazing, and you have Billy Connolly. I mean, so I don't care what anyone says. You got to be a little, was there some nervousness? I mean, you've worked your ass to get there, but are you thinking, if I fuck up, this could all be gone? I have waited so long for this. It's like being in the major leagues. You get up, and it's the pressure's on. So what was that first, when you sat there and you first said, action, what was going through your mind?
When I got on set, fun story. CB was my producer, also my best friend. He was the guy that started all this. So as producer and director, we're walking up to the set, right? And we're walking through the thing, and we get stopped by a PA. And I can understand. I'm wearing, overalls and shit. The kid goes, hey, you can't come. We're shooting a movie. Please go across the street. And I'm like, I know. I'm the director. And he's like, oh, shit. So we were off. That was the gun shooting. But I wasn't nervous. No, I was anxious. I wanted to get going. And then it was all this hurry up and wait with lighting and camera setups, which I didn't know and wasn't used to. I got used to it after a little while. But yeah, when we were actually shooting with those cameras on, that's when I started just, I am in heaven, Also, I mean, this was a strange one. One of the first lessons I learned was, evidently no directors these people ever worked with make decisions. Like the wardrobe gal wheel up a bunch of coats. Which one do you want for him in this scene? Because here we have this leather thing, and I'm like, the red one. You don't want to see all the... No, that one. Go. And they loved it. The crew appreciated that. They would say over and over, finally got a guy that can make a decision. And I'm like, who the fuck are you people working with? Right? We've only got so much time and money. I got to make my, days here. There's a dude over in the corner waiting to take my job. Who the fuck are you working with? So there was all this kind of learn as you go stuff and all these great people. And by that first day, because they were all watching, they were all going, can this kid pull this off? It's a great script. We like him. But can he actually pull it off? After day one, that crew had my back like you would not believe. There were people going way above and beyond the call. We get in trouble with money. This guy has to take a cut over here on all of his stunt guys. He does it. Says, get it to me in the back end. Who cares? Let's go, go, go. And with Boondock, especially with the stunt work and the gun work, these guys realized they were doing something that hadn't been done before. I haven't seen a guy jump off a fucking 5-story building with a toilet, rip it out of the ground and jump off. We haven't seen stunt work like this before. So they wanted to do it so bad. When sacrifice had to happen, that everybody fucking made it. Because they realized, I'm not going to be able to do this again. This isn't going to happen again. Two guys aren't going to fall through a ceiling, get all messed up with ropes and be upside down shooting 9 gangster. This stuff has to be done. Duffy has to get what he wants. They were like that. That when you suddenly have a crew of technicians that have worked in this industry for a long time, they're top of their fucking games, yelling at a producer and going, get the kid what he fucking needs. Nothing feels better than that. Yeah.
So you wrap the movie. It must be a great feeling. So what happens next? You have this movie. What happens?
We go straight to, I think it was North Brookfield, Massachusetts, and record the album. So we were in there. We had these 2 great engineers, Jeff Skunk Baxter, from Doobie Brothers fame, and Steely Dan. We had gotten to know him through Joel Roman over at William Morris, and we had become friends. We were at each other's barbecues and stuff like that. So when it came to do the album, we wanted him, Skunk, and he helped arrange songs. He was amazing. And we get up there, we do our album. That's like, again, another fairyland. I was in the it was, I forget what it was called, but it was just all this refurbished barn, and an engineering studio had been put in this barn. The Rolling Stones had recorded there, Aerosmith, right? And we're just like in this legendary place recording our album, our first album. So that was the best. Then get home, edit. Now, my editor, Bill Durandi, was there with us in Toronto and editing the scenes as he went along. And one of the little tricks I always advise young directors, have your director there, your editor there with you. Edit the scene you shot the day before, and then show it on a flat screen at lunch to the entire crew, right? With music and everything. And yeah, there was timestamps running on it, and it was fuzzy and shit, but they could tell it always reinvigorated them. They were like, we're working on a big one here. So if your movie's good enough, show the cast and crew the edited scene. So Bill was working in L.A. in his editing bay while we were out there in North Brookfield recording the album. I get back. Now I'm sitting with him every day, 16 hours a day in there, getting this thing done, tightened up. And, within a few months we had it edited together, delivered on the day we were supposed to, and that was that.
So when does it start getting attraction? I mean, what you think about it, what makes something a cult classic? Because it's, as you said, you have this devout fans. I mean, you're selling the rosaries. People are buying them. It seems like on Instagram they're flying off the shelf. They're getting handcrafted. So when do you know that you have this cult classic? How long when it's out? Because back then, the thing back then is people video. You rented videos. You could do now you can stream anything. But when did you know that all of a sudden you said, people are really digging this? Because it wasn't a box office hit. It got traction later. So I mean, when did that start happening?
Yeah, there's an interesting story there. Boondock always seemed to be the exception to every single rule in the business. Back then, you didn't get a theatrical release, you were done. That's it. You'd get 2 copies of your shitty movie at every Blockbuster for a home video deal. That's it, straight to video. That was death. So back then, you didn't get a theatrical release. It was over. Nobody's going to see your movie. So how you get a theatrical release when you have done a small independent film is you go to the studio lots and you screen your film for all their buyers and employees, hoping that a Paramount or a Fox will buy your movie and put it out in their theaters and get behind it. And suddenly there's billboards and trailers on TV. That's what you're hoping for, and that's what we were hoping for. Boom. Right when it happened, right when we were having our screenings, we were having incredibly successful screenings. Packed, because they warned me, these people all work here. They have to go back to their desks and stuff, so be prepared for about, 50, 60% of the audience to disappear. No one was leaving. Not a single fucking person. Matter of fact, there was people standing in the back. There was this big buzz on it. So we're going to all the lots and doing this, and the Columbine incident happens, right before we start doing it, having our screenings. And there was this kind of, you could feel it in the air. Something wasn't fucking right, because we're having some of the most successful screenings even the people at the lots are telling me they've ever had for any movie, and nobody's stepping up. And finally, this one buyer from a studio, I think it was Fox Studio, pulled one of my producers aside and said, "You guys have been blacklisted. They're stopping production on anything that depicts violence. There's all this crossover, the trench coat mafia at Columbine. 2 of your fucking characters are in trench coats the whole time, and 2 young guys did the violence there, and you've got 2 young guys where you're depicting violence." So there's all this crossover they felt with Boondock. So we were banned from U.S. theater screens. We just couldn't. They weren't. So at that point, we all were just, crying in our beers. It's over. We made this awesome thing we love, and now no one's ever going to see it. It was only Billy Connolly that saw through all the fog. He was like, "Dear boy, it's rock and roll. The kids will find it. And he ended up being right. What happened was I did a private screening, because all we had now was Blockbuster. That was the biggest home video. We had to kind of sell it to Blockbuster. So I met a man that became a lifelong friend, God rest his soul, Dean Wilson, who was the CFO of Blockbuster. He comes walking out of the screening. It was just this, one little room screening of photo chem. Wasn't even in like a movie theater setting. Comes walking out of the screening. He turns to me and he goes, "You got fucked. That movie's great." And he said, "We're giving you what's called a Blockbuster exclusive deal. Instead of 2 copies a store, 8,500 stores, we're going to release Boondock Saints with 120 copies a store like it was a huge movie." Right? They'd only done this once or twice. And so I'm like, well, thank you. Can we have a little theatrical? So between myself and Blockbuster, we four-walled 2 theaters. One in Hollywood and Vine in L.A. and one in a college town called Waltham, Mass. Right? Now, it made $38,000, but do the math. What happened was the one in Waltham, a couple college kids showed up, checked it out, then more. Then suddenly they're having packed screening. At the end of the 6-week run, the theater refused to give the print back. They're like, "We are printing money over here. Every screening is packed. Matinees, everything. You guys can't have this back." And they had to threaten legal action. You're like, "You're invading on our rental window. We have to get all these copies out." So as soon as it hit Blockbuster, it becomes the #1 straight-to-video highest earner they've ever had. They can't believe what's going on. And it makes a shitload of money. The fan base quietly formed right then. And like the first thing they said was, "You finally make a good one, Hollywood, and you motherfuckers don't put it in theaters." They were all pissed off that it wasn't in theaters. So from there, we eventually got the juice together to do a sequel because it had done so well. And it was an instant cult classic by the fans and reviewers. Even though the reviews sucked in a lot of ways, like 95%. "Oh, this movie sucked," and the reviewer going like, "Why do so many people love this movie?" They couldn't understand themselves, and they sort of begrudgingly called it a cult classic. And that's kind of what it was from virtually day one. But that was fun, I didn't know. I had really weird things happen. Like I remember going to a, I don't know, it was like a Costco or what the hell are those stores called? I had to go to a store years later, and this fucking camera, man, Jesus. And buy my own movie. So I bought like 10 Boondock DVDs, and I'm checking out. And the dude checking out on the register next to me has got 5 copies of it. Right? And he looks over at me, he's like, "Hey, good stocking stuffer, huh?" I'm like buying my own movie, and there's guys buying multiple copies right there at the same exact time. So it was out there, grossing it. By now, Boondock 1 is probably grossed, because that's the thing about cult classics. They never really stop selling, It's that they don't do a 6-month plateau and that's it. They continue to sell and make. Most of the fans I meet now weren't even born yet when Boondock 1 came out, So it just keeps going and going and going. This movie's got the shelf life of a chunk of fucking uranium. And it keeps building a fan base. It just never stops. And kind of that first Blockbuster release was that silver bullet first shot, where we started to suddenly realize, wow, this is a really big fucking movie, and Hollywood is unaware, which was why it was so difficult to get the second one made. But there's stories there too, I guess.
Well, here's a question. Now, the movie is, a big cult classic. Do you ever worry that now you're writing these books that, because everyone's an asshole now when it comes to social media and stuff like that. Everyone bitches, nothing's ever right. Like anything, they can go, like I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. Oh, they suck. They fire the coach. I'm like, they just won the Super Bowl last year. Like everyone bitches. Do you ever worry? And I'm sure, do you ever worry that what if people don't like the book? Do you feel like you have this? You have to make sure that your fans, because they're your fans, they're the story fans, but they're Troy Duffy fans. So do you ever worry that they might go, "Oh, we don't like this book," and then how would you take that?
Yeah, that was the biggest thing for me. After I wrote the book, I knew that if it was any good, the fans would tell me, right? And I knew if it sucked, they'd tell me. So in the sort of nail-biting moments leading up to hitting that send button and releasing the book on Amazon and Audible, I was, extremely nervous, worried. And then the reviews came in, and I'm the luckiest man on the planet. They fucking love it. It was exactly what I'd hoped for and more. The idea of taking the fans, this fan base, on a much deeper, more personal journey with these two characters they love for so long was like, are those shoes that I can actually fill, or I guess refill? Can I actually pull this off? When those reviews came in, man, I was crying, and it was praise like a fan. Like we had this marketing team, and they're like, "What is like the tagline here? What do we say to say how good this is?" And we're coming up with all this stuff, and then a fan, just a random fan who's just going off on how much he loves it. He says, ultimately, this is not a retelling. It's a resurrection. And I was like, So once the fans, the few that have read it or listened to the audiobook told me, then I knew. And extreme. I was walking on cloud nine. I mean, one of the first things we did was we got 6 random people, and I did a quick podcast with them we had given advance copies of the book, And that was again, I was walking around on eggshells all day, wondering how that's going to be. I hit record. Hey, guys, how are you? How did we enjoy this book? And kaboom, man. They just loved it. And the way you can tell when people aren't BSing you, the way they talk about things, picking out these little things these little clues and things that I put in there that I hoped they'd get. And they pick them out and start talking about them, going off about how much they love this and that and the relationship between this. And it was so awesome to see Rocco's there's new aspects to him and the brothers and all this stuff. The way they talk about it they're just so excited, And, now we're looking for an actual physical book kind of publishing deal so we can put it in bookstores. We kind of did it in reverse. It usually goes, you get a book deal and you're in Barnes & Noble, and then you do the ebook and the audiobook. But we did it in reverse. So we're looking for some brave publishers right now. We're going to be having our first meetings here at the end of the month. But, to have because we're planning a book series here, right? This is going to be 1 through 10 easily. And all these kids, they want to slip it into their collections at home, into their bookshelves. They want all those spines to match. Boondock has been one of the most collected, tattooed movies ever. And so we want to create a very special package when it comes to the physical book. So we're looking for a courageous publisher right now because, strangely, and I didn't even know this, but kind of politics and wokeness has crept into the book publishing business. And now it's a problem. They have, you know what a sensitivity reader is?
Yeah, what is it?
They literally have sensitivity readers now, like people that will take a manuscript and say, oh, no, you can't do it because LGBT here, and this person's going to get upset, and this group's going to be pissed. And, as soon as I heard that, I was like, wow, we're fucked. Boondock is about as sensitive as a sledgehammer,
right,
and about as politically correct as one too. So I mean, we've been turned down by so many publishers that you would have just thought, hey, it's Boondock Saints, and look at these reviews. What the fuck? Let's go, But it's not. It's a little harder than we thought, and but we've got a couple. Step up that we're going to be talking to at the end of the month here. So hopefully we get like a leather-bound, Bible-looking, embossed, awesome physical book, It's one of the dreams of my life. One of my bucket list things is going to a Barnes and Noble in Boston, in my hometown, and doing a book signing with a bunch of screaming fans, and then going across the street to one of those awesome family-owned theaters they got and screening the first film. You know, that would be the best.
Well, that's good, man. You know, I'm glad you came on. I'm wrapping up. I always ask this question. I always ask my guests this final question. And you've done a lot, and you've had your ups and downs. Looking back where you are now in your career, what are you proud of?
I'm proud that took that chance and had my back. That I was the kind of guy that they would step out of line for and back when nobody else would. That I could be that type of person that somehow imbued loyalty and respect. That's one of the things I'm also just extremely proud of, sticking to my guns and making sure my movie was cast right. Because, I mean, just think about that. I had a movie that I'm turning down movie stars, and I basically cast it with 3 no-names. The 3 top leads in Boondock Saints were Rocco and the brothers, all 3 no-names. You know, I had agents and producers going, "Well, how about one famous fucking guy?" You know, and I was like, "Hey, Smacker, that's Willem Dafoe. He's famous.
Right.
Let's go." You know, so I was making those compromises, but Dafoe, I mean, he's such a great character. End of the day, what I did was akin to Hollywood suicide, especially for a first-time director, first script, unproven, you know. So, I mean, the story of my life and how me and a bunch of people all collaborated and pushed this thing across the finish line, that would have to be the pride. Also in just how it turned out and how people, these fans, dude, if you just Google Boondock Saints tattoos, it's over 1.3 million tattoos, all right? And those are just the people that took pictures of it and put it on the internet. There's millions more. I see it out, checking out at Lowe's the other day. Guy goes, "Hey, great movie, huh?" Holds up his arm, and he's got the Veritas Equitas tattoos from Boondock, right? My bartender, right over here at my little pub, you know? And all these stories, fans tattoo the entire prayer on. It's just so, it fills me with so much pride, these fans, that's something. First of all, they're incredibly expensive tattoos, and they're on there permanently forever.
Right.
You know? That's a kind of respect that I get from these fans that very few creators, very few writer-directors ever get to see that, ever get that kind of, you know, good on you. You made something we love. You created characters and sold them to us in a way that we love. And, you know, so those are a couple of the things I'm most proud of. I'll give you something I'm least proud of. Going through the business kind of very naively and young like that, I should have put a lot more focus on what my next film was going to be. I was going so hard, 100% in, that I never looked at my career, you know, and said, I should be formulating a black book. All these actors I'm meeting, I should have their cell numbers and go out to dinners with them and do all that stuff. I just didn't even think about all that, and I didn't do all that. That big regret, you know, when you make friends in the business, you just, I was in the position, they always say it's who you know. I was in the position of knowing a whole hell of a lot of people, powerful people, actors, producers, agents, and I should have basically really kind of catered to those relationships.
But you've done all right. You've done great. So you should be happy. You've done great. That's all that counts. So how can people get in touch with you? I know you have the Instagram. Give all your information.
Yeah, it's official Boondock Saints basically everywhere. Official Boondock Saints, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I think we either have an X account or are going to develop one right now. I've been out of touch with the fan base for a very long time. Upon retirement, I just let all social medias I hadn't posted in years, and then all of a sudden I got a book to sell. I'm like, ugh. That's why, like, the entire fan base, you're really helping me out here, Coop, because at least, I mean, a lot of the people listening to you are going to know, but I'm trying to get the word out to the fan base. The fact is, they simply don't know that I just wrote the Boondock Saints book, and that's, to me, to the creator of Boondock Saints, that is Boondock 3 through 10, because I mean, the audio book's 17 hours plus. You know, these are the movies that could not have been made. It would have taken forever, right? And just in volume 1, yeah, for me, it's Boondock Saints 3 through 10. That's what should have been, but was impossible to actually do unless it was in the medium of a book.
Exactly. So people, go check out. Go find Troy. Go buy the book. Go to my website, coopertalk.net. You can find 1,060 episodes on there. Email me, Cooper at coopertalk.net. Also, go into YouTube, Coop's Comedy Corner. That's my one podcast. I have different comedians and comedy writers I've known through the years, Emmy winners, and my friends like Wendy Liebman and Rich Scheidner. And also my new podcast with my attorney friend John Fagerholm called Lawsuits and Lessons. It's twice a month. You can find them both on YouTube. So keep listening, keep watching, go buy the book. I'm Steve Cooper. I'm only as hip as my guest. Don't forget, drink your water, eat your vegetables, take your vitamins, and I'll talk to you next time.